Oh yes, dear viewer, we are back. And boy does it feel good. In these dark times when decent, good, or even great shows are few and far between, it is the duty of any man, woman, or child to call out that which is awful. But also it is critical that we recognize that we must also highlight that which is of the good end. Cast away the shackles of the Fallout show, dear viewer. Reach out into that cold dark and find a shining beacon of light, a gem if you will, called a Knigget of the Seven Kingdoms. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a show that takes place in the wonderful world of A Song of Ice and Fire by George, really reluctant to finish his books, Martin.
Sir Ilan, bring me his head.
And yes, dear viewer, he will literally do anything except finish his damn books.
Well, I figured I had nothing better to do.
What is important about this show is just not the simple fact that it's the story of Dunk and Egg and the start of their relationship. It also represents a return to form of that old, wonderful Game of Thrones writing I've sorely missed. And perhaps alongside that of Season 1 of House of the Dragon. But that show is, yeah.
No. I must speak with you.
It is a show that fundamentally knows what it is about. It is not about the grand political machinations of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, but a smaller, more personal story told in the world of Ice and Fire. Whilst political events do occur during the course of the Dunk and Egg stories, they are not the authors of them. This, of course, changes later due to events that I will not cover in this video, as it is spoiler territory that is far-flung in the future. But for now, it is just Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon Targaryen's beginning, and with that, it is time to get to the meat of this here video.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!
It is a breath of fresh air to have seen this show after the mess that was the Fallout show, and it shows the strength of my argumentation in my previous video. And yes, dear viewer, I know I'm tooting my own horn, but what I mean to say is that there is a clear, distinct, and immense gap in the quality of writing between these two adaptations. In my previous video, I was blessed with numerous comments that were the likes of, if you don't like it, don't watch it, or just don't think about it.
Oi, bro, I'm fucking addicted to heroin.
Ah, fuck, mate. Have you tried not thinking about it?
Yeah, right, I'll give it a go. Nah, I'm still fucked.
But A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has swept in and shown what the meaning of quality is. The Fallout show clearly relies on iconography of the games in order to stay afloat, without which it would collapse.
Why are they looking at us like that?
Never underestimate the power of brand recognition.
It uses iconography whilst disrespecting its source material, meaning it does not exist to serve the wider Fallout universe, but to get you to spend money on their crap, whilst tricking you that this is the thing that you like. It is truly a night and day difference between the Fallout show and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It is such a blatant difference in quality that I feel it is the objective, not subjective truth. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, God, that is a mouthful, clearly has far better written characters, better story, and the world feels far more believable than it did in Fallout. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms clearly displays that it understands that whilst you can tell a tragic tale or a dramatic one, there can still be moments of levity and laughter.
I'm coming back.
He was a true knight. Different than other men, yeah.
Even though we have a scene of Dunk spilling his bountiful fertilizer by a tree, or the wonderful images of Sir Arlen of Tree, the tone is still serious and quite dramatic, which is maintained throughout the show. And this is one of the most fundamental and critical differences between the two shows. The Fallout show doesn't understand Fallout because the writers don't care to understand that Fallout is a tragedy with satirical elements.
And we kind of settled on another very simplistic idea, which is just Fallout is a vibe.
For A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a tragic tale. It is the tale of a hedge knight, the probably poorest and lowest among them, who strove to do the right thing against an evil prince. a quite brave and foolish act in an attempt to keep his supposed knightly vows. The show seems to confirm, at least in the show's canon, that Duncan was never knighted by Sir Arlen, but he is still trying to do his best, and in this pursuit of doing his best, he ends up getting one of the greatest crown princes in the history of not just one, but 7 kingdoms killed. And it shows moral depth, a moral complexity in Duncan that he's willing to do certain harmless bad things in order to accomplish a greater good.
How can this be for the greater good? Shut it!
Through his actions, this lowly hedge knight was the catalyst for an event that went on to affect generations, echoing throughout the rest of the series. But even though he caused this through his own and of course Aerion's actions, the show is not about these wider-reaching effects, and it is still very much a character story. It knows what it is, and it is a tragic tale indeed. Oh, and guess what? Fallout failed at this, believing Fallout not to be a satirical tragedy, but it believed it to be a purely comedic satire where people don't seem to understand they live in a post-apocalyptic shithole. Fallout is a total vibe, fuckface. Don't you get it? Whereas A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has a clear respect for its source material. It exists within the rules of the world and doesn't take any egregious or patently ridiculous liberties with it. It strives to tell us the story of Sir Duncan the Tall, and that is precisely what it accomplishes. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a smaller scale story, still epic in its own way, without the massive continent-spanning consequences. Mostly anyway. It is a character tale where we see Duncan and Prince Aegon, not Aegon or Egg, form a wonderful friendship that will last decades. Most, if not every character that is introduced to us serves a great purpose that serves as a test to Sir Duncan, or at least to show the complexity of the world around him. The steward of the Ashford tourney, as I believe him to be, called Plumber, now that's a name. In any case, this plumber serves to test Duncan to see if he will be a greedy knight by trying to rig the next contest against Lord Ashford's son to make money and armor and weapons and horse. Very good. And Sir Stefan Fossaway shows us a terrible knight, a bully, a liar, and a treacherous cheat. And Prince Aerion Targaryen shows a highly intelligent, or at least a highly cunning and conniving cunt. He eventually shows Duncan the vipers in the grass, waiting to strike around him, and that he must be wary of these in his journeys. And Prince Baelor Targaryen, the crown prince of the Seven Kingdoms, goes beyond what it means to be a knight. He is a prince of the royal house. He has ascended beyond the petty squabbles and is simply a good, or maybe even a great and honorable man that Sir Duncan strives to emulate. And I'm sorry here, but as a Maekar fanboy, I'm going to say it. Bloody hell, Maekar shows Duncan loyalty. Even if it's stupid loyalty, blind loyalty, Maekar, though spiteful of his son's failures, loves them dearly. And he is shown to be willing to bleed and kill for them. And if you did not care when Maekar yelled, "My boy," you have no heart.
My boy! My boy!
For it is the duty of any and all fathers to love their children and to protect them. Maekar is maybe not the best father, but he does have a 50% success rate. And if you didn't know, Daeron the Drunken is Maekar's son, so is Aerion. But then there is also Maester Aemon.
Egg. I dreamed that I was old.
And Aegon, or Egg. So therefore, 50%, not bad at all. Especially for Targaryens. Not bad, Prince Maekar, not bad. It quite smartly tells us a moral story without hitting us on the nose with it. It doesn't want to lecture or condescend the viewer, it just wants to tell us a great story, which it does brilliantly. We get to see a grey world where answers aren't always easy, and while some choices are black and white, Duncan and Egg, probably especially Duncan, will have to learn how to navigate the world and see these colours for what they are. This show pleases new and old fans alike, and in a way that it could probably serve as a good gateway for Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon due to the smaller amount of characters. and at the same time it doesn't require you to read any of the books and you can follow along quite plainly. So you do not require that autistic level of knowledge that I have garnered through years of wasting my time reading on the wiki. My god. And as a reader of the visual novel, yes, I'm better than you, I feel there is enough great nods to it without being blatant fan service at every turn. Just a damnable good adaptation, and might I say, smart in a smartly way and not dummy dum dum. The World of Ice and Fire, The Song of Ice and Fire, are a series of works that I consider to be quite brilliant in their breadth of lore, amazing stories, and characters. There are so many fantastic tales that are told throughout, and it is truly a shame George will never live to finish his world. But in that regard, will any author ever truly be finished with their world? I am a firm believer of the statement, a character is only as intelligent as the person writing it, and George R.R. Martin is quite intelligent, and he knows how to write good characters with a lot of depth and breadth. Blethred. And this also further extends to the showrunner of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Ira Parker, who also worked on the first season of House of the Dragon. Coinkydink? I think not. But this level of intelligence shows the clear gap between the writer of the Fallout show and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. The writer of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms clearly shows that he doesn't believe himself to be a better writer than George R.R. Martin, and respects the source material, adding some subtle things here and there to adapt the show, but still remaining faithful. The Fallout writers instead believe themselves to be superior or more clever than the original writers of the Fallout games, believing they can supplant what already exists without paying homage to what came before it. The additions by the writer of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms are welcome in my mind, and serve to flesh out the world a bit more for those who may not be entirely into A Song of Ice and Fire. Adding the scenes in Flea Bottom and new characters to show the harshness and hopelessness in King's Landing, where Duncan grew up, were perfect additions, showing the horrors of his childhood to a casual audience.
Leave that boy be!
Instead of just being background knowledge for us, superior book readers. Haha. But back to intelligence, which is something rather difficult to accurately nail down, and is an often overlooked trait in shows. Like I said, a character is only as smart as its writer, and it is an oxymoron, but it takes an intelligent writer to write an actually stupid character. Duncan lacks education, or more accurately, Duncan lacks a proper education, but he does have street smarts and a harsh but fair upbringing as a squire to a hedge knight on the road. But due to this clear lack of education, we see how Duncan time and time again makes an arse out of himself, due to his lack of courtly etiquette, but he makes up for it with his charm, will, and honor. In the Fallout show, characters and factions are often forced to be stupid because the plot needs them to be, not because they necessarily are stupid. It is a consequence of poor writing, poor planning, and truly awful showrunners.
Yeah, and where we come from, women don't get to talk. Cunt.
Fallout is a vibe.
You know what? I'm about to say it. Say it.
The Fallout show lacks charisma, where the main character may have clear goals that they wish to accomplish, but the world around them, the characters around them, fail at every turn to bring stakes, to make the world feel believable and lived in. Contrast the flea soup lady with Maykar.
I'm sure your son is up.
He's dead.
No, he's dead. Just my kind of luck. Cocksucker owed me money.
She cares not that her son just died and makes flea soup for a living, which makes no sense, whereas we get to see how a proper parent reacts to their child in mortal danger or death.
My boy! My boy!
Time, Dr. Freeman?
Personally though, I wish we could have a bit more time with those who choose to fight for Sir Duncan's cause, because it is a truly excellent thing that could have been built upon. Not by a lot, but just a little bit more spice, as the Trial of Seven shows the opposite teams fighting for very different reasons. And this would serve to add even more stakes to the fight and actually make us care for everyone that fights. Not just the main bigwigs, which is kind of what the story is about, showing us a tale about the small folk, not just the rich people. Or I suppose you could consider most of these tourney knights to be sports stars in their own rights, or probably millionaires by today's standards, but you get the point. They're still far, far lower down than Prince Aerion. But back to the reasons why they fight. Prince Aerion's team may have an all-star team of princes and kingsguard, but they fight out of an obligation to their liege or their family, but the knights on Duncan's team are instead representing different chivalric values. Kind of. Duncan, of course, protecting his own honor and protecting the innocent. Riesling is probably fighting for faith, madness, renown, but no idea, he's crazy. Humphrey Harding fights for his honor after his horse was killed from under him by the dishonorable Aerion, and probably for revenge as well. Humphrey Beesbury joined to support his brother-in-law, Humphrey Harding, showing more of that familial loyalty and the importance of a strong bond. And Raymond Fossaway is fighting to stand up to bullies, even if they're family, and honoring one's word. Prince Baelor appears to fight for far more romantic reasons, the conjured images of the valiant and romantic knight upholding the vows. It is quite interesting to see how Baelor speaks of needing good men as he dies, and even after having somewhat justified Aerion's attack, he's still willing to show a split in the Targaryen royal family, which is interesting so soon after the Targaryen Blackfyre civil war that Aegon sings of in the show, which is another wonderful detail.
Blackfyre's not a true-born, he came from the wrong country, was in peril, the anvil was a rock, the hammer smashed the bastard with his giant veiny.
And of course, Lionel is just here for the love of the game, baby. Even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, putting us in the shoes of Duncan, giving us his own point of view, sealed the deal of the combat. Having the field covered in fog, the fog of war if you will, adding to the confusion of who was dead, who was alive, and what is happening. And this is of course clearly deliberately done by the showrunners to show how terrifying and intense knightly combat is, even on this tiny scale of a 7 versus 7. Do be so kind as to contrast this with the Deaththor fight in Season 2 of the Fallout show, where there are no stakes and he's just plowing through them like nothing. Even though they pretend he's losing, he's eventually saved by a wonderful Deus Ex reference. During the combat, we can hear how distressed Maekar becomes as Duncan gains the upper hand against his son Aerion, by the virtue of Maekar yelling, "My boy." My boy! My boy! It speaks volumes and works on so many levels, and is a perfect example of adding to the lore due to a good understanding of the lore. Because this is actually not originally in the novel or the visual novel, this is an addition by the showrunners, which is amazing. In spite of how awful his son is, Maekar loves his child. And at the risk of going on a little bit of a tangent, Maekar's wife is dead and he never remarries in later life, and this can be due to a multitude of factors, such as there are too many male Targaryens at this point in the story anyway, and also probably that he loved his wife Diana Dane and he's trying to protect every last vestige of her that there is left in the world. It is one of those amazing things about writing where two words at the right place with the right context can make all the difference in the world. The added scenes of Duncan in Flea Bottom and later showing him follow Sir Arlen is an excellent choice. Why? Because it mirrors, or as some other famous writers would say, rhymes with how Aegon chooses to follow Duncan to the tourney.
Again, it's like poetry, sort of they rhyme.
Giving more weight and credence as to why Duncan relents, because he sees himself in Aegon. Wait, no. Another benefit of the show is that its main character is a nobody. He doesn't know anything about the wider world, so we get a fish out of water story which doesn't require 6 trillion hours of watch time or read time in order to understand and follow along. Meaning new and old fans can see things that they like, with new fans especially, if they dive deeper into the lore, will find many reasons to rewatch the show again and again to catch details. Us in the know already know this. And as greater men than I have previously said, to find out whom's rules over you, find those whom's thou are not allowed to criticize. And like some other men greater than me have said, you aren't allowed to criticize children with leukemia. But here is where the show truly shines as we see Duncan breaking the mold, fighting against stereotypes and shattering the glass ceiling, or the bones, finally showing a shift in society and a break in the stigma. Well done, Duncan. Criticize that little bastard.
None of that. See to the horses. You'll get a copper if you do well, and a clout in the ear if not.
Can I even nitpick? Can I bring myself to do it? Dearest viewer, of course I can. This show is so refreshing because overall there are no major issues, there are no major flaws, and as I see it, a massive thumbs up to the showrunners. But for the sake of argument, I have some nits that I want to pick, not to criticize, but just for the sake of argument and discussion. Allegedly. A bit more time with the knights that support Duncan, like I mentioned earlier, would have been welcome, but overall they have no further effect on the story. But building on why these individuals would be so eagerly willing to go against the royal house and potentially injure royalty is very brave indeed. And this is actually a nitpick about myself because I did a common thing when it comes to medieval shows, which is to ask, where is the food? Where are the golden fields of wheat or barley that the peasants tend to eat? Only to then see, oh my god, there's cattle right there, holy shit. The change of Tansel's puppet show was a shame, I think. They went too extravagant, I believe, with how large-scale the puppets are and the production in general. I believe the visual novel gets it right in this case, because it is just that, a small puppet show run by a single Dornish woman with hand puppets, which makes Aerion's truly awful character show much more, because this isn't some large-scale production like in the show, it's like I said, one woman with hand puppets. This reveals to the viewer how truly petty and disgusting of a character Aerion is. At the same time, the scale of the show, in the show, gives credence to the sedition argument brought forward by Baelor that it can be seen as anti-Targaryen propaganda, which is arguably harder if it's just hand puppets. Stunlock, 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 and stunlock, 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 stunlock. The amount of stabs Aerion gets into Duncan feels quite strange because it appears each draws blood and chainmail is supposed to make it harder to get stabbed. So the workaround could have been if they just made Aerion use a hand and a half technique like we see here, because this is a way for a long sword to pierce chainmail and certain armors, which would show Aerion's superior training against Sir Duncan, but it would at the same time show that whilst Aerion can beat Sir Duncan the Tall, he cannot beat Sir Dunk of Fleabottom. When I realized how short the first episode was, I was shocked. I looked at it much like Prince Zuko. Where is the rest of it? How can this be? But this gave me a feeling I haven't felt for quite some time. Even House of the Dragon had me on the fence for a bit. I felt that I wanted more, and that I needed more. But the show, unlike many others that push for the 1 hour mark and with only 8 episodes, 8 hours still don't feel finished. I feel that every episode of Sir Duncan's Woes, I am satisfied, yet yearning for more. It does not tread water, it does not waste time, it efficiently tells us the story in a manner fitting of the story, without needlessly or incessant B-plots and C-plots. This is the story of Sir Duncan the Tall and his squire, Prince Aegon Targaryen. Every great show doesn't have to have hour-long episodes, and I'm glad that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has shown that. Even the music serves the story with more simple arrangements to highlight that this isn't a story on the scale of a Game of Thrones. Also in the way that it's shot, everything is quite meticulous and adds to this fact. The show fantastically even uses subversion properly, because we believe Duncan will take part in the tournament and lose, as this is what it appears to be building up towards, only to be thrown a curveball by the actions of Aerion and Duncan. It is amazing to watch a show in the year of our Lord 2026 that makes you feel rewarded for having watched. It is wonderful to see that in spite of all the awful literal shit shows that get released every year, we still have the luxury to have shows like this be amongst them. These absolute gems that come out of nowhere and give you hope for good entertainment that speaks to you and makes you feel something. Holy fuck, imagine that. I am satisfied at the knowledge that I started to write this script even before the show had completely finished. This due to the sheer amount of confidence they inspired in me through their competent writing, excellent storytelling, and faithfulness to the original work. And that is what it's truly about, telling great stories. I cannot wait for Season 2. Thank you all very much, as per usual, for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can support me by liking, commenting, subscribing, and all that other gay shit. Join the Discord if you feel brave enough. If you feel I've earned it, you can support me on Ko-Fi further monetarily or by becoming a YouTube member. Ciao! And as always, a stupendously thankful thanks to all my wonderful Banu merchantmen who helped make all of this possible. A most humble of thank yous to my wonderful Apex fishies of Raptar Jesus, Half-Breed Bastard, and Magic. A stupendous thank you to all my wonderful Soostrummings of Combat Creations, Leduc, Big Kronk, Mouseclick, and Avidri. A consequential thank you to my wonderful, fantastic people of Schmieda, Ifernjora, Sorgi XD, Albatross, and Ignore Me. And a suspicious thank you to my wonderful enthusiasts of Longyawn, Feral Goblin Gal, Bloodix, Monk, and Dave of Yogs. Thank you all very much for the money.